This is the story about the old mines and town of Frisco, Utah. If you like stories about old lawless towns overrun with outlaws, then this could very well be your kind of story. It was in 1875 that two prospectors, James Ryan and Samuel Hawks, found an outcrop of ore that looked like it had some silver in it. The two men got an assay on a sample and found out that it was indeed silver, and then proceeded to do a bit of digging around this deposit. After noticing the deposit was quite large, they decided to sell the claim for $25,000. That was a lot of money back in those days. However, this deposit would later become known to produce over 25,000 tons of silver. After buying the claim, it wasn't long before the new owners of this deposit decided to build a mine, and very quickly a new town was built around this mine. This town became known as Frisco because of the mountain range close by. Shortly after, the Horn silver mine was discovered, and this mine would soon become the largest producer in the area. Word got out, and within a few short years there were several other small mines working in the area. This place was unique with how the ore was being smelted. A company called the Frisco Mining and Smelting Company was started, and the smelter they built were charcoal kilns in the shape of a beehive. There were once 36 charcoal kilns in Frisco, and these kilns varied in size from 16 to 32 feet in diameter. The height of these kilns could be as high as 24 feet high. There would be a metal door at the bottom and another door higher up. Concentrates of ore would be put into the lower doorway, while firewood was added through the upper. Once the wood was on fire, it would burn for up to a week, then the kiln would be allowed to cool and the molten metal would be taken out through the bottom door. By 1880, just 5 years after the town and mines had started, there were 6,000 people living in Frisco. The Utah Southern Railroad already had tracks laid, and the trains were coming into town bringing in supplies. Like mentioned earlier, this was a tough town. An old history writer once described this town as Dodge City, Tombstone, Sodom and Gomorrah, all put together into one town. This town had over 20 saloons and gambling joints with just as many brothels. Shootings were almost a daily occurrence, and the town actually had a wagon on contract, just to pick up the dead and take them to their own version of Boot Hill. Finally, the town got a sheriff, and because there was no jail, the new sheriff told everyone they had two choices: either behave or leave town. It is said that on the sheriff's first night in town, he shot and killed 6 outlaw men. After that, the town kind of settled down and became a more civil place to live. Then on February 13, 1885, there were some ground tremors at the Horn silver mine, and some tunnels had cave-ins, so miners stayed on surface waiting until it was safe to proceed. However, later that day, there was a massive collapse of the tunnels all the way down to the 7th level of the mine. The owners of the mine were quite greedy, and because wood timbers were quite expensive, they didn't want to use too much timbering in the mine, and this all helped lead to the collapse of the tunnels. The problem now was that miners could not get to the richest part of the mine. However, after about a year, the mine did start to produce more, but production was way down from before, and this is what helped start the decline of the town. By 1885, it is said that more than $60 million worth of silver, gold, and other metals had been produced from the mines in this area. By the year 1900, the population was only 500 residents, and by 1920, the town of Frisco was basically a ghost town. You can still go to this area of where the old town of Frisco was, as this place is now registered with the National Register of Historic Places. There are some of the old beehive kilns still standing, and the remains of a few other old buildings. I hope you enjoyed this short story about the old mines and town of Frisco, Utah. Please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue to bring you more old lost mine stories.